Landon Gray Robinson survived a 10-day coma after doctors were ready to pull the plug, a recovery his mother attributes to the power of prayer. But that miracle of survival soon collided with a 22-year bureaucratic nightmare that has left him fighting for his legal existence within the Social Security Administration. On March 23, 2021, the United States District Court for the District of Hawaii issued a binding judgment in Robinson v. Saul, reversing the agency's denial of benefits. Yet more than 4 years after that federal court order, the agency has reportedly failed to implement the judgment, a defiance of judicial authority that has real-world consequences like homelessness and the loss of essential health care.
It is a harrowing situation because the legal system is supposed to be the final word. When a federal judge like Alan Kay signs an order under 42 U.S.C. Section 405G reversing a commissioner's decision, it isn't a suggestion, it is a mandate. In Landon's case, we are talking about disabled adult child benefits, often called DAC or C1 benefits. These are unique because they allow an adult who is disabled before the age of 22 to receive payments based on a parent's Social Security earnings record. Landon's entitlement was established back in July 2004, but the agency effectively tried to erase that history.
Explain that erasing part, because it sounds like a procedural sleight of hand. The agency apparently converted his established entitlement into what they call a closed period, without any lawful basis. Normally, to stop benefits, don't they have to prove medical improvement or show a statutory terminating event like a marriage?
You're spot on. Under the Social Security Act, once you are entitled to DAC benefits, that status is event-limited, not time-limited. It continues until a specific legal event happens, the beneficiary dies, marries someone who isn't also a beneficiary, or the agency follows a very strict medical improvement standard to prove the disability has ceased. To just flip a switch and call it a closed period, which implies the disability had a definitive end date, without a formal reopening determination or cessation paperwork, is a radical departure from their own regulations. It bypasses all the due process protections designed to prevent disabled people from being summarily dropped from the rolls.
And the irony is that Landon won in federal court. The court's judgment is binding under the law of the case doctrine, which basically says that once a higher court decides a legal issue, that decision governs all subsequent stages of the case. Yet reports indicate that in May 2026, the SSA actually re-adjudicated the exact same impairments that the court already found to be disabling. It feels like they're trying to relitigate a battle they already lost.
That is exactly the tension here. The law of the case doctrine is there to ensure finality. If an agency can just ignore a court order and start the whole evaluation process from scratch, the judicial branch loses its check on executive overreach. What's even more troubling is the tactic of using his own compliance against him. Landon was repeatedly told to file new applications or complete Form SSA 521, a request for withdrawal of application, just to get the payments he was already owed. But every time he followed those instructions, the agency treated it as a brand new claim, giving them a fresh opportunity to issue a denial. It's a procedural trap.
It sounds like a catch-22. If you don't file the forms they ask for, they don't pay you. If you do file them, they use the new filing to ignore the old court win. And let's look at the work aspect. Landon had a work history, which the agency used as a reason to obstruct his benefits. But DAC beneficiaries are supposed to have access to a trial work period, right?
Exactly. The trial work period, or TWP, is a specific safeguard. It allows a beneficiary to test their ability to work for 9 months within a rolling 60-month window without losing their disability status. During that time, earnings don't matter. You could earn $1 million and still be legally disabled for Social Security purposes. The agency isn't allowed to use that work activity to terminate benefits during the TWP. By using his work history to deny payment, they are essentially ignoring the very work incentives the Social Security Act put in place to help disabled people attempt to re-enter the workforce.
The human cost of this is staggering. We aren't just talking about missing checks, we're talking about a person with a documented survival story, a literal return from the dead, being forced into homelessness and personal danger because a government agency won't follow a court's instructions. It's a form of systemic discrimination where the process itself becomes the punishment.
It really is. When you lose those benefits, you often lose your Medicare or Medicaid tie-ins, which means no medication, no therapy, and no stability. For someone with Landon's medical history, that's life-threatening. The systemic failure here isn't just a mistake in a file, it's the refusal to acknowledge the finality of the law. If a federal judgment from 2021 can be ignored for 4 years, it sends a message that the agency is above the court.
For anyone listening who might be in a similar situation, maybe you're a disabled adult child on a parent's record, what should they be looking for? How do they know if they're being subjected to these same tactics?
First, check your Social Security statement immediately. Look for the claim symbol. If you see C1 or HC1 next to your benefits, that confirms you are receiving or were entitled to child's benefits based on disability. Second, keep a paper trail of every communication. If an agent tells you that you must file a new application to receive back pay, be extremely cautious. That new application can be used to reopen and reevaluate your entire disability status, even if you already won your case years ago. You have to be your own legal advocate or find someone who understands the nuances of DAC entitlement.
It's a call to action. We need to understand that winning in court is sometimes only half the battle. The story of Landon Gray Robinson is a warning that systemic obstruction can continue long after the judge gavels the case closed. It's about demanding that the law of the land actually applies to the agencies tasked with serving the most vulnerable among us.
And it's about visibility. These cases often happen in the shadows of administrative law where nobody is looking. By bringing Landon's story to light, it empowers others to question their own benefit status and hold the SSA accountable to the judgments they're legally required to honor. No one should survive a coma only to be buried by a mountain of illegal paperwork.
Landon's fight continues, and it highlights the urgent need for transparency in how federal judgments are implemented. If you found this information helpful, please share this episode with someone who needs to hear it.